All right, we're back with the man, the myth, the legend, Jake Stein. I hope I said that right. I always mess these things kind of up, when we do broadcasts and things like that. But we have Jake Stein here. We're going to go ahead and go through a lot of things in Madden Ultimate Team. Jake, how have you been, man? It's been a while.
It's been good. It has been a while. It's been arguably too long. Been on the grind, man. There's been a lot going on. Super pumped to be in here tonight talking about everything coming to Madden Ultimate Team in Madden NFL 20.
Good stuff, good stuff. All right, guys, so first off, Jake, last week we talked about superstar X factors, zone abilities, superstar abilities. There's a lot of questions from the community, like how is that going to go ahead and play a factor in Madden Ultimate Team? So can you give us a little bit of insight on how this new feature is going to play a factor in MUT?
Sure. Well, before we get into it, I'm sure not everybody tuning in tonight was able to check in Clint last week. So what are X factors? What are superstar abilities? So let's start with X factors, right? This is a way, this whole feature that Gameplay took on this year was really, a great attempt of bringing more authenticity to the game, right? So what is something that, me as a player that I'm always looking for is how are we able to differentiate players, have these guys really stand out, make the stars feel like stars. Again, something that we're hearing a lot in the building this year. And I think Gameplay's absolutely nailed that epic this year. So let's start with X factors. X factors are things that you have to earn in the game. It's not something that you just have with. So the example last week was with Patrick Mahomes, our cover man. His X factor ability is he can throw it 80 yards in the air, right? He has a bazooka, right? But it takes something for him to get that. That is not an every down ability for Patrick Mahomes. So that is tuned in a way where he has to meet some in-game gameplay criteria. As soon as he's met it, he can throw those 80-yard bombs. There are also superstar abilities. Superstar abilities are those things that are part of that player's DNA. He has it on every single play. So again, going back to last week with Patrick Mahomes, he has the ability to have escape artist, right? So he has extra locomotion when he gets outside the pocket. He feels extremely different than when you're playing with Tom Brady. So that's a little bit quick high-level recap as to what that feature entails. So as you mentioned, a lot of questions last week. How does that play in the Ultimate Team? It'd be very easy to think that, in Madden Ultimate Team, hey, I'm creating this huge roster. I've got 25 guys on both sides of the ball. I'm going to load all these guys up with X factors and superstar abilities. And, for a while, I'll be honest, we were kind of going down that path as well. And we really started to pull the reins back a little bit. And we kind of were asking ourselves and play testing, is this still meeting the goals that Gameplay wanted to do? Can stars still feel like stars in that world? And we feel like the answer is no. So while, given for the applicable content, you will be able to still put abilities and X factors on essentially whoever you want to. But the key thing in Ultimate Team is when you're in that lineup screen, you're going to denote the 3 players on offense and the 3 players on defense that are going to take not only that X factor, but also those passive superstar abilities as well. So we feel like that's going to bring a very interesting meta. There's going to be some really unique choices that have to happen there in combinations. I think that's going to drive a lot of conversation. People are always going to be saying, no, I'm telling you, go with QB and 2 wide receivers, or no way, man, the running game's really strong this year. I'm putting a couple on my O-lineman. I'm getting my back ready to go. We're running it downhill. A lot of interesting choices here. So that's a really high level as to how Madden Ultimate Team's bringing it in. I think we can cut to our first screen here where, we're kind of bringing this into the player upgrades feature that we delivered last year. So, the red chems, as a lot of the, community like to call them, those are essentially gone. Some of those have morphed and sort of like transcended into these abilities that Gameplay has built for us. But those are no longer a thing for us. So now it's all about getting into these abilities, and there's a long sort of escalation plan and how are we going to let certain players have access to these things. Those are things that are still in flight. We're super pumped to be here on May 15th talking about this, but there's a long way to go between now and when the game launches. So just keep in mind, we're super excited to be here talking about this earlier than really we ever have before. But a lot of this is really kind of, to get the feel for what we're doing. There's a lot of answers that we don't have yet. And that's going to come as we continue to build content and continue playtesting to make sure that we get it as right as we can once we launch the game. So again, with that said, you're coming in here. This player has earned the, option to equip some of these abilities. And again, just for anybody who's not familiar with how that worked this year, you get the ability slot, you toggle over, boom. this player, if he meets specific criteria, he has access to these different abilities. Boom, equip it. So whereas the main game and how Clint talked about it last week when we're building out those rosters, that is something that they are controlling. That is a huge conversation with everybody from Dustin Smith to Clint to a lot of different people on the in-game
For sure.
team.
I heard about the triggers and everything.
Ultimate Team will be the place where you can go and actually customize those options, right? That even goes for let's flip it all the way back to Bazooka with the X Factors. You can customize those as well. So we'll go in there, we'll sort of dictate, what makes sense for which particular player, and build out options for those. I'm talking a lot, but we're on a roll.
No, it's great. It's great because I think one of the things that you're talking about, you said it's specific type of players. You kind of hinted at that.
Yep.
That's like the new thing I heard around here in the office about archetypes, right? And
Yep.
archetypes is going to bring a different level to Madden Ultimate Team next year. You and I have had a lot of conversations about this where it's like, at the end of the day, a lot of the people in the Madden Ultimate Team community feel like players is just a whole bunch of ratings. They all play the same.
Yep.
There's a uniqueness that's coming with archetypes. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, no, I'm super stoked to talk about archetypes. There's a couple of huge benefits that we get, and it continues to feed into that authenticity and differentiating players. So on one hand, we'll talk about this first, which is we'll go in and we'll choose what archetype fits for each player when the game comes out. And with that, we'll be able to say something like, again, I'm kind of making some stuff up here, but this one makes sense. Tom Brady's a field general quarterback, right? We are going to tag him as a field general. What does that mean when it comes to us talking about X factors and abilities? That means that we've gone in and said, these are all the abilities that make sense for field generals, right? So Tom Brady's not going to have access to escape artists. That's not a thing that he'll ever have, no matter if he's 99s across the board. He's never going to have access to that. And we feel like that's an important decision when it comes to, I want to get into a field general. But what that does mean is he's going to have things like, maybe perfect passing in the red zone, perfect passing on lobs or deep throws. There's a lot of different options there. And those are things that something like a scrambler will not have access to. So being able to have those very critical choices when it comes to building out what do you want on the field at any given time, I think is going to be huge for us. And then we talk about the other piece to that. The other thing that gets us really excited is, up until this point, Madden Ultimate Team has had to go in and build its own special OVR calculation for each position.
For sure.
So what does that mean? For positions like outside linebacker, tight end, we are going and having to do our best to say, well, yep, pass rushing means something. Yep, zone. Obviously, there's people who need to have that. Also means something. Being able to play the run. Oh, yep, that also needs to play into this. And you sort of get what we've been able to deliver up until this point. So when guys come out and you're like, well, how is he meeting that rating? The ratings don't justify it. Or this guy's just kind of good at everything. He's not great at everything. Archetypes allow us to take that next step. Let's say outside linebackers has 4 different archetypes. Well, that means we get to build 4 different formulas for those. So when we have a pass covering linebacker, that means we get to weigh things more into, some of those physical stats. Obviously, things like zone coverage and man coverage come into play, right? But if you have our run stuffer, right? Okay, now we get to value and weigh things more on strength, tackle, hit
awesome.
power, things like that. It's going to, I think, provide very unique and interesting choices. When a player comes out, I think it's going to be much more of a conversation than it has been in the past, and a lot of choices for the players on, again, what do you want out of that 53?
Yeah, no, I think it's awesome because I think one of the things we hear a lot of times within the community is, ratings. There's just, how do they work? How do the OVR calcs work? And I think there's a lot more differentiation going to be happening now as we go into Madden 20. So that's great stuff to hear. So we saw that screenshot. It looks like power-ups are back going into Madden 20. And one of the things, let's talk about one of the new features coming to Madden Ultimate Team. It's called Missions. It's talk a little bit about that with me right now. Like, what is it? Why are we doing it, and whatnot?
Yeah. So Missions was, a really big deal for us on the live content team. We make so much content, and when we take a look for feedback or take a look at some of our in-game, data, some of that information that we're getting back, we sometimes question ourselves: Are we teaching this well enough? Are people finding the content that we're creating on a given day? So Missions really kind of is that opportunity for us to take, this open world of Ultimate Team, which can go deep and get very complicated very quickly and focus it up and bring you into almost these quests, right? So again, Gibbs has pulled up some screens. We're going to roll through some. Again, I want to reiterate, keep in mind, this is definitely test content. This is something that is kind of proving out what the feature can do. This is not something that you're going to see on day one.
For sure.
So with that in mind, Missions is now the place where you are landing on when you come into Madden Ultimate Team. It's a big deal. We want you to know what's going on and what's the easiest way to get into that and understand what that content is. So with strength training here, we're taking a look at that. This is what we're calling, this is the campaign level, is what we're calling it internally. So here are now your actual 2 missions under that campaign, which are essentially saying, hey, do you want to work on improving your offense or do you want to work on improving your defense? Cool, sweet. I'm going to go check out my offense. The step 1 here, again, a very basic, a very simple way of communicating this is saying, hey, we're going to earn stars in these particular challenges. Now, ultimate challenges are something that we're going to get into in just a second. But for here, this could be a multitude of stats. People I'm sure watching the stream are very familiar when we come out with something like Zero Chill, and it's like, well, cool, we're going to take you into, you got this, pack when you launch the game. Now you need to pick one of them. Now you need to go put them in your lineup. Now you need to go play these challenges. Now you need to go put those guys in a set. There's all these things that we ask you to do. Missions are a thing that we can take you and step by step direct you and get you where you need to go.
That's awesome.
Now the next part of this are what we call the actions. So this is a place where, again, if you're one of those veteran users, how am I going to find, success with missions, or what's the benefit for me with using missions? Well, it's going to be kind of like your quick hotspot to go anywhere in the game. So this is your actions tile. This is telling you that I can go into a particular ultimate challenge and we take you directly to the challenge. Another example here are specific sets. Well, we can take you to, again, very, very specific sets, not just the sets category, and then you figure it out from there. Or solo battles, or not pictured in here, something like the auction house, where we can take you and pre-filter what you're looking for in the auction house and even give you a little bit of information about what the median price is, so you kind of have a good understanding before ever hitting the auction house. Is this guy that, what I'm seeing, is this roughly what everybody else is getting them at?
Repeat that again.
There's a median, again, not pictured here. One of the things with test content is the auction house doesn't exactly look like it does on production. So when you come in here, if there's a spot for the auction house, it will tell you what the median price is for a specific item that
cool.
we have you looking for. So for this one, we're taking you to the challenges. Here's your couple different categories of here. Master the Sticks. There's a couple things going on the screen here, but I want to go one step further before we talk about that. So here you can take a look at the sequences, but we start off and we show you the milestones. I guess now's the perfect time to get into stars. So now with Ultimate Challenges, there's this star rating. It's not just the simple pass or fail. There is a skill to it, and there could be multiple stars that you can go do. And rather than saying, hey, we're going to put the best reward at the very last challenge, it's going to be more about, well, how many stars have you accumulated through this whole thing? And milestones, if we want to go ahead and push ahead here, is that first example where we get to show you this many stars is going to earn you this reward.
That's awesome.
So some really cool stuff here. It gives us the opportunity to, again, sort of expand that out. I'll talk a little bit more here at the end as to, again, why we're going more with the star rating versus, hey, like, I'll just play the last game. Why would you change that? There's a very good answer to that we'll get into in just a second here. So we can push past this. And now we find ourselves at the game screen. And you can see here that Gone with the Wind is a total of 5 stars here. There's 15 stars possible in this particular go-along sequence. So I'll dive into here, Gone with the Wind. And here's where your first big choice comes into.
Okay.
You have your easy, and then you'll see that as we toggle over, that there are easy, medium, hards for this. With easy, you can see here that, sorry Gibbs, I messed you up on that one. On the easy, you can see it's on rookie, right? The requirements for things like throwing for 10 yards on this drive, or you can see the bonus goals for throwing 10 yards on the first play and throwing for 30 yards on this drive. Some additional things to get you stars. If you were to go in right now on easy and nail your primary goal and the 2 bonus goals, you'd walk away with 3 stars. But if you're looking to max this one out, play it on 5 stars. You're gonna bump it up to medium. You're gonna bump it up to hard. You can go from hard right away. There's no like I have to do this one at a time. If you want to come in here and you feel like you're ready to go, you can go straight to hard, which is going for this particular example is just going to move that challenge into all pro. Now, when we update the easy, medium, hard, there's more than just difficulty that we can touch, right? Difficulty being one, we could change the game style. We could change where you start on the field. We can change the time. We can change, maybe we make it a stronger CPU team that you're playing against on hard. There's some really cool things that we can do to sort of, maybe test for skill in ultimate challenges. Whereas before, I really would, recommend the team that, hey, solo challenges were really about, just get your time investment in.
Yeah.
Just come in here, grind them out, get your time in. But let's, outside of something like Gauntlet, let's not really test for skill. That's not what those are meant for. I think Ultimate Challenges lets us lean a little bit more over to, testing for skill. You get some more opportunities there. And what's great for us is, how we're thinking about it internally is, let's say, a normal sequence now, we'll say, hey, at the end of this one, we're going to get you a 95 overall, whatever. Mm-hmm. For this new world that we're about to live in, it's not going to be about, well, now max out all 50 out of 50 stars in order to get that item. It might still be like, get 30 of the 50 stars. That gives us extra room at the end to play with, to give you additional content. You can get maybe some additional currency, some additional packs. It won't be things that, sort of exclude you from progressing anywhere, but it's an opportunity to earn additional rewards. So we feel like this route is going to make things more replayable. One thing that I did not touch on is that, you can play these out of order now. Mm-hmm. In a lot of cases, we still have the ability to lock them and sort of progress as you go. But again, knowing that hey, I'm not ready for this particular challenge yet. Let me move on to the next one. You still have that option, right? And then what did Gibbs pull up here? The reason why we are not calling them solos anymore and why we are saying solos are dead is you now have the option for most of the content. We can still, again, we'll have some play here. It won't be, I'm not going to say it's 100%. But for most of the content, you're going to have the option to see your buddy online, tag him, invite him, bring him into a lobby. Now, these are no longer solo challenges. We're in ultimate challenges now.
That's awesome. So you're basically now just giving people the opportunity to kind of play these together. I know, solo grinding, it's, you're sitting there, you're at home, you're Netflixing and chilling and just kind of playing these things. Now you can actually play them together, kind of work on them together. It's a more social experience, which is pretty awesome. Yeah. So you said solo challenges are like gone. Right now, with Ultimate Challenges, what does that necessarily bring? You said replayability was one of the things, which was pretty awesome. And you also said that there's no more pass-fail conditions, which is something I want to highlight. I don't know if you guys out there play Gauntlet, in some of those really difficult, challenging situations. Those are situations that, one, I wanted some friends out to play with, or two, I wanted to be able to go ahead and just go back and replay it and all that kind of stuff. So can you highlight what other upgrades are coming to Ultimate Challenges?
Yeah, one thing that we definitely could have touched on was with the bonus conditions. If you're somebody, kind of a veteran to Ultimate team, and I'm sure plenty of you are tuning in tonight, and thank you so much for doing so, is when you went and tried to engage with a challenge and wanted to get that bonus condition, you had to do it that time. Yeah. As soon as you played it and passed it and then backed out, and if you hadn't completed it, there was no way for you to go back and ever get that bonus condition again. That has been updated. That has changed now. Very cool. So we have the ability for you to, again, if you want to play it on 1 star, get the bonus goals, whether you do or don't, you still have the option to go back in on it on even a higher difficulty and then go back and get those bonus conditions. Some other things that we have, some additional end conditions. So one of the ones that really sticks out in my mind that I think is going to be a difference maker is something like ball carrier moves. So imagine a bonus goal. The main goal might be rush for 40 yards, and the bonus goal could say, well, yeah, do that on 1 play and make sure that you have 3 ball carrier moves while doing it. Or even potentially even harder, 0 ball carrier moves. So now you're looking at, again, additional ways for us to sort of, spice it up a little bit, get you into something a little bit different. So we're super pumped about that.
That's awesome. So if a person that, for someone who grinds solos, what's going to change right there? Because, again, we're moving away from solo challenges to ultimate challenges. Just to kind of recap, what are some of the things that are going to change for those individuals that are just grinders?
Well, you don't have to do it by yourself anymore. playing Madden with friends is a better experience, and we truly feel that we've been building out squads here for a couple years, bringing solos into the same back end tech stack as our online modes gave us a lot of, it was sort of like the full completion, right? It was essentially our version of Endgame. It wasn't quite 22 chapters, but we were able to sort of complete that technical story for us. And bringing that all together allows us to do something like build squads, which is its own very unique thing that lives outside of it. And you know what? Now that we've built our former solo challenges in the same backend, sweet, with very minimal work, we get to bring that same feature over into challenges as well. So I think that's going to be a big deal. I think people are going to really enjoy that. It's not, make Madden a little less lonely, right? And I think that this type of feature really speaks to that. And I'm excited to hear all the different stories that people have, right? We dipped our toe in the water this year with squads challenges. They were, for the most part, very sort of, solo experiences, very just like that was it. There wasn't necessarily a ton of depth there. Now, whenever there's new challenge content out there, again, for a majority of it, you're going to be able to do that with your friends. So I think that that's going to be a big difference maker. Plus, with the stars, with the replayability, that extra, hint of challenging, being a little bit tougher than what they're used to. It's not just Netflix, chill, just kind of like, okay, I'm just grinding through these, getting through them. Nope. You're going to have to kind of lock in a little bit more this year, especially if you're looking to max out all those stars.
That's cool. I really do like the element of a social experience. I think a lot of players at the end of the day definitely want to go ahead and play with their friends and get involved. So, yeah, it looks like it looks like Stagehand might have just popped up a screenshot right here.
I think it was good.
Yeah.
I think it was good. We were almost going to forget about this.
So
how could we?
Yeah. So one of the things that I think a lot of our players find very frustrating, right? Is like you play a solo, you got to go ahead and exit, go back to the main menu, and it's something we've been asking for quite a while. I see a screenshot right here. It says, play next challenge. Walk me through this. What were some of the challenges to bring this to fruition? It sounds like Ultimate Challenges and everything, this new tech allows us to do this. What's up with this?
Yeah, so how did we get here? Really, you got to thank the community first and foremost.
For sure.
This is one of the things that we've been hearing about for a while and has been, no pun intended, a challenge for us to get to. But how did we get to this specific screen? Okay, for the players here, you've just completed your challenge. For this particular one, you could only have earned the 1 star. What does this allow you to do? We pop this up right away now. Immediately lets you just choose play next challenge. And when you select this button, I don't think we have a screenshot for this, but it takes you essentially back to that same screen where you are toggling with what stars you want to do. It automatically populates what the next one is. You get to choose what difficulty you want it on. You hit the button. And there is still a load. I want to make this clear. There is still a load to get into the next one. It's not this instant thing that happens. However, takes out a lot of the button clicks, a lot of
going back, going forth,
yeah. There was a lot of extra nonsense there that quite frankly you've just had to deal with, and this allows you to get have these be so much more accessible and easier to get into. It's going to be easier to just like, yeah, I'll go get that next one.
Yeah, because you just want to move on. You just want to kind of get into it, get it done, get those rewards, keep going, keep playing, all that kind of great stuff.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. So thank you, Gibbs, for pulling that one up. That one is a big one. One that, quite frankly, especially with that screen, just came in maybe last week. So
yeah.
Again, that's why it's just so cool and exciting to get to talk to you guys like as these things are coming in real time.
Yeah, no, really appreciate it. I think a lot of times what, from a community perspective, you guys give a lot of great feedback, and the teams are taking that feedback in, the MUT development team specifically, and they're trying to figure out ways to go ahead and make these things a reality. And some of it is really dependent on the tech that we have available to us, and it's kind of hard to go ahead and do that maybe mid-season, but it's definitely on their radars to go ahead and get resolved for you guys. Now, let's talk about house rules, man. House rules was a new thing. We saw that out there. It said beta on there.
Yeah.
There's that beta tag. There's a reason why it says beta, and you and I have had some conversations. Like, what was the idea behind bringing house rules to Madden Ultimate Team? And when we have it in beta, what are we trying to solve for? What are we looking into?
Well, beta is really, sort of that opportunity for us to test something out. It's obviously a little bit about what beta means when it comes to a video game. To go back to that stream when we got to really introduce what house rules were, and I'll kind of give a quick recap of that. it was our opportunity to sort of get with the gameplay team and say, what else can we do here? We think that there's an opportunity to make Madden more replayable, and we feel like house rules would be a great way to do that. So again, for those that maybe aren't familiar, house rules were our ability to go in there and say, all right, for this particular game, all passing touchdowns are going to be worth 12 points. We're going to double passing touchdowns. Or we're going to have, one of the events that we had this year was called half off. So it was 1st and 5, and you only got 2 downs to achieve that first down. So something that was really going to sort of shake up the meta, change the way that, kind of get you out of that rut of this is just another game of Madden. And the results and the engagement that mode saw were just fantastic. And I can't thank everybody enough. That was just amazing. So, of course, we're bringing that back. I don't think you're going to see it on day one. There's going to be a lot to do on day one when Madden 20 drops. But it's something that you're going to see, much earlier in the calendar this year. Probably some additional rules, stuff that we can't maybe quite get into yet. But going all the way back to, why did we want to chase something like Ultimate Challenges? And why did, I hinted a little bit about like bringing that into that online tech stack. Well, that meant that there were some things that the offline, the old solo challenges mode was going to get as an enhancement. Well, vice versa, there was also some things that the online modes were going to take and get as enhancements. And one of those things, and maybe the biggest one, is we can now have start and end conditions in online games. So what does that mean, and how does that translate into something like house rules? Well, for next year, I could have an event that says, well, we're going to have college overtime, and we're going to just start you already in overtime. You're just going to go right there. You're not having to play through the 4 quarters in order to get to that spot. We're just going to drop you right in there. And that's going to just be this crazy, unique experience. We could also do some things, and we've talked about this internally, and we're still trying to figure out and flesh out what sort of bugs that we're getting to. But like, we could also have one that says, all right, the first person that scores a passing touchdown in this game is going to win, right? And just drop you right in there. So I think it's going to continue to feed a couple things. One, change up the way that you're playing Madden. Keep that meta shaken up. It's going to make Madden more replayable. And then also another goal that I've always really loved, is especially when it comes to online games, is having shorter experiences. Everything doesn't need to be a 40-minute investment. There's opportunities for you to get in there and still have a lot of fun, and not everybody can really have that same sort of investment. So being able to go in there and do things like that, I think are going to be big. And so that's one of those where you're so excited that you're getting it for 20, and you're like, we just missed it for 19. But man, it's coming soon. I think everybody's going to love it.
That's awesome. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit right now about some of the community questions we got last week.
Okay.
We got some questions from the community. One that I see a lot in my timeline, and I don't know if Gibbs, if we have that asset or that screenshot that we can go and throw up while we're talking about stuff, but I'll just read it off my sheet right over here. And so the MUT Master Completion Token, right? So there's been a lot of chatter on social media where people are asking, is it going to be worth anything this year? Is it going to be worth anything next year? I don't know if you have any if you can answer that question.
Yeah, so it's something that we definitely haven't forgotten about. And being able to grind and do everything that it takes to earn that is a big deal. So we want to make sure that the reward that we have for that type of engagement and success in Ultimate Team really pays off. So it's not something that I can get into tonight. There's some things that, I guess you're just going to have to kind of trust us on a little bit here. It's going to be worth it. Could it be a 19? Could it be a 20 thing? Yes.
Okay. This cryptic messaging, Jake.
I know. I'm sorry.
No, all good, all good. I appreciate it, though. So thanks for addressing it. It's definitely something the team looked at. And guys, I appreciate all the feedback that you guys provide us. We definitely get that over to the MUT development team so they can go ahead and take a look at that stuff. One other question we got from last stream is, can you give players an edge distinction so they can play outside linebacker or D-end without losing any chems? So this is something a lot of people have been asking for. Kind of what's the plans for that?
So there's nothing really to announce here at this time. It is absolutely something that we've talked about internally. There are absolutely guys in the NFL, I've talked about it a couple times tonight, is what are things that we can do to separate players? Mm-hmm. They're part of like what it takes to be a superstar, or why somebody is a superstar, is because, they are mismatches. They are unique players on the field. So somebody like Travis Kelce has absolutely earned the right to not only be called a tight end, but they split him out all the time because he's a flex tight end. This guy can move all around. He's a joker piece for the Chiefs. So it makes all the sense in the world to have this guy, you know, be inserted into the wide receiver spot and not really take much of a penalty. So it's something that we believe in. It's something that we know we want to get to. You know, there's some things that kind of prevent me from going any further with this answer,
sure.
but it is something that we've absolutely talked about.
Cool. So one question that we've gotten a lot as well is, you know, will every team have at least one player with an X Factor ability, and how's that going to work in Madden Ultimate Team?
So that particular question to me feels more of like a main Madden question. Will every team have something like that? I would really probably defer that to Clint. I don't know if everybody's going to have an X factor, but I think every team will be represented on some curve of superstar abilities, X factors plus superstars, only X factors. I'm sure there's going to be a mix of everything when it comes to the 32. Now, when it comes to Ultimate Team, obviously a little bit of a different ballgame. We haven't talked about this yet. It's not something that we're going to get into tonight, but like, what does the launch content look like? What are we planning on? Is it something where, you know, a lot of people are going to have access to those abilities right away? Is it only going to be for really the top end and those same sort of elite guys? We don't have answers for that. And honestly, where I think we're going to land on is somewhere balanced in the middle. You know, I think that there's an opportunity for us to have some of the, you know, lower OVR guys have access to some of the, you know, lower end of the abilities in terms of the power scale.
For sure.
And then again, part of differentiating and being authentic, those superstar players will have access to more things.
Cool. I had a phone call this weekend. I was talking to someone, and they were talking about, you know, LTDs. You know, are they going to quick sell for 500K, you know, next year? I know that's kind of been like a hot topic in the community, and just kind of wanted to ask you about it.
Again, one of those things where we're definitely talking about it. Definitely a conversation topic for this year, and I would think that there were both pros and cons. We always hear a lot more about the cons, but I do think that there were some pros in there. One of the things that we have to always be careful with when it comes to live content is overcorrecting. There are definitely things that pop up and we address, and then you start to hear from the other side, right? You kind of, it's like the squeaky wheel is the one that gets the grease a little bit. So it's something that we're definitely talking about. You know, thankfully, that's not just a me decision. You know, I have an awesome team behind me where we all get to chime in and we're all invested in this thing together. So we're going to come together and figure out, okay, if it's not that, how can we still accomplish a lot of the same goals without having that, you know, essential floor on the auction house? So it's something that, you know, nothing to announce tonight. You know, as maybe if we have another opportunity to get together and talk as we get closer to launch, maybe we'll have some more concrete answers at that point.
Awesome. Well, guys, just to give you a heads up.
Before the survey,
Yes.
you guys do 1 minute on missions, like the 30,000-foot view on missions, just to make it super clear.
There you go.
I feel like this is the one that's going to be on Instagram, and like I can't mess this take up. So missions are going to be the way that, you know, we take this open world of Ultimate Team and really condense it down and focus it into very specific quests. So it's your way of understanding what is some of the brand new content that we just released. How do I get into that? And it's also a great avenue to take you directly to where you need to go. We can take you directly to a specific challenge. We can take you to a very specific set. We could take you to a place in the store if we know for sure that that particular pack gets you progress onto the thing that you're looking for. So it's really this kind of hot spot that takes you anywhere, you know, in the game, and it's your quick, you know, again, I'll go with another end game. These are your portals, right? You know, on your left, Cap. That's what these are.
That's awesome.
How'd I do? Boom.
That's awesome. Well, Jake, you know, thank you so much. Really appreciate you coming on. Guys, just a heads up, go ahead and make sure, if you're going to go ahead, we're going to put out some information about the Deep Dive blog through the main channels. Make sure to go ahead and tag hashtag Madden20, also hashtag Mutt20. Give us those questions. We're going to be answering a lot of those on the Gridiron Notes tomorrow. So one of the things that we're trying to do at the end of the
Gibbs is already trying to chase me down at breakfast.
I know. So one of the things we talked about is like we'll get in here at the office around like 8 o'clock, 8:30. We'll try to get in touch with Jake and say, hey, these are all the questions that we saw from the community. Is there anything that we can answer in the Gridiron Notes and get those answers out there for our community members? So definitely stay tuned for that. Jake, again, it's always a pleasure. Really appreciate you coming out, man. And I'm sure we'll be doing more of these on Madden Daily Drops. We're going to bring out Man of the People, Z Farrells, here in a moment, so stay tuned.